hello. I am Brandy.
And I'm Richard.
And we are Emerged by Design, and we are coming to you from the Rio Grande
Oh,
on solstice.
yeah, unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
The exact time of the solstice will be 2 a.m. this evening, which is the 21st. So we're in the evening of the 20th.
Yeah.
Floating the Rio Grande in the final moments of the sunlight.
Yeah.
I can't believe we're out here.
It's beautiful. I am so grateful. But before that sun goes behind that mountain, we wanted to talk about the solstice and what to expect in this coming lunation. And not just in this lunation, because of course we're also in the third quarter moon. That will happen at 12 hours from the solstice.
It's pretty much, yeah, exactly. It's on Sunday afternoon.
But really, the solstice is the coming of the light. It is the transitionary period as we're floating the river. I'm seeing the light on the sun shining on one side of the ridge, and the effects of the sun not shining on the other side
we can feel
of the
that.
ridge. You can feel it very viscerally. So we're in this transition time where we are moving from this introspection now, but very slowly, very measured, and you'll share with us what that is about. But we are moving outward. We are lifting up our head. We're maybe not moving forward yet, but we're lifting our head from this slumber. And each and every day, the sun is going to shine brighter for longer. And that symbolizes the you-ness shining brighter for longer after your introspection, after this time of interior understanding and listening. And so in this solstice time, it is really, and you're going to talk about the astrology, but in this solstice time, it's really an opportunity to gather together around the council fire of yourself what it is that is truly important and defines who you are moving forward in this next light period.
Yeah, as we move towards the solstice, the sun will be shining a little bit longer each day after tomorrow. Just feeling a real connection with everything you're saying. So grateful to be out here in nature and connect with the solstice to me and the equinoxes, these four corners of the sun's pattern. It's a visceral pattern. I think it's the pattern that has been part of our culture, every religion, every tradition. It's just at a very root level.
It is.
And it reminds us that there is a cyclical nature to life. Right. And I think that's very much part of our message, I think, because the solar plexus is very connected on this particular solstice. But yeah, just that inward, that yin quality that you were describing, a beautiful time to make some space, take some time, and really connect with that deep, dark yin inner core of who we are. So I really appreciate the opportunity to do that with you and with you.
Absolutely.
And the solstice, this December solstice, always happens when the sun enters the sign of Capricorn at 0 degrees, and that takes place in the BodyGraph in gate 10, line 2.
Gate 10, line 2.
Yeah. And gate 10 is called,
hermit.
the hermit. Well, the gate is called the gate of behavior. Right. It's in the higher self G center. It is the higher self-love, which is a great contemplation unto itself.
Absolutely.
It is the G center connection to the integration field, which fuels our individuality.
Right. Yeah. It is the natural expression of the divine in form, without pretense, without imagination that of doing anything. Yeah. And in this gate 10, that's line 2, and in this gate 10, it is the highest expression of my integration with the world around me, is how I move through the world.
And being a line 2, which in human design we often call, well, in this particular gate, it's called the hermit, and it's also, as a line 2, considered to be the natural. It's just the quintessence of the gate. The line 1 foundation has been laid, and the line 2 is just the pure essence of what higher self-love is.
So it is inviting us into the highest self-love that we have capacity for right now, for putting our awareness and our witnessing on places where we want to be more loving, but allowing the expression of ourself as it is, in its shadows and in its light, to be alive.
Beautiful. So we can all take a little piece of that with us. And we want to think about the polarity where the earth is, which is gate 15, line 2. And so not only do we have our individual self-love, but we also have the polarity dynamic of the love of humanity, the love of extremes.
Right. The love of the metronome moving back and forth, and everything that comes within that. And that can sometimes, well, this is the story of our evolution, is of extremes challenging our natural known behavior of who we are. I mean, this is the core essence of why we're here in form as humans, in my belief, is to work out this dilemma of how to naturally allow the extremes of the material world to exist, with us being us within it and not conforming and not changing to meet the extremities.
Yeah, beautifully shared. So things we want to add on to the 10 and the 15 at the time of the solstice is that the nodes are forming a square in gates 25 and 46. And that's one of the things that makes this particular December solstice so unusual, is to have the nodes in the other 4 G-center gates of love.
Right.
Love of gate 15 is love of humanity. We have gate 46, the love of the body, and gate 25, the spirit
Universal
of
love.
the higher self and universal love.
Yeah.
So to have all 4 what we call love gates of the higher self center activated by the nodes and the sun and the earth, there's some real significance there.
I think so. I think that it is just supportive of feeling supported by the cosmic or serendipitous events, of feeling supported by the a love of whatever that means, of the vessel that you're carried within, a love of what's happening around you, no matter what it looks like, and a love of self as being within it all.
Beautiful, beautiful. Another aspect we wanted to add on to the solstice is that the moon in Virgo, in gate 64, is in opposition to Saturn, which has been in gate 63 for some time. Finished the retrograde motion, now moving forward through gate 63, the pressure center and the head center to fuel the logical process.
Yeah.
And it's a very interesting polarity unto itself.
It's
the 63, 64.
I think it's such a integral part of my individual truth, being that it is in my nodes in line 5, is that I feel as if there's always a truth with a lowercase t. This is, I feel like, what 63 is. 63 is this logical experience that brings you to this truth that is left brain, that is empirically evidenced, that is here to be seen. There is a T, but it is a T, a truth with a lowercase t, because there's a much bigger T that is unfolding in the 64, this imagination, this illumination of the next story, because after 63 collapses the wave function of what that experience gave you, 64 imagines a new emotional experience about what could then happen next.
Yeah.
And so they're such beautiful bedfellows, because they're so polar, and I love that it's here at the solstice, because 63 wants to say, no, this is true because of logic, because of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 64 says, yes, and look at how it fits into this abstract idea of how great it feels to be human, or God in form, or whatever it is that it feels great to be. So I love the polarity of
Be flipped. It's one of the most interesting elements of the I Ching.
Right.
The fact that 63 is called after completion, and the last gate is called 64 before completion, and the fact that 64, which is connected to the abstract circuit, is actually in Virgo, about habits and regimen and detail, and analytical, ruled by Mercury. But then on the opposite side, we have gate 64. Gate 63, which we call logic circuitry, which you would think is very Virgoan, but 63 is in Pisces.
Right,
so
right.
To me, that little detour we took really speaks to part of this transition between what's real and what's possible, and where are we in the story. It's the ending and the beginning. It's this whole wheel of evolution that we don't know, but I think what we can say is that we are in some sort of transition.
We are, and we get to imagine a new emotional truth that could be available to us. Like, how great would it be for us to wake up every morning knowing that it's okay to feel good, and that it's actually our birthright, and that it's waiting for us in serendipity and in presence and in peace.
Yeah.
And it's waiting for us. And so to wake up with that understanding and that knowing, yes, 63 says that things are not that way, but 64 could, by feeling, we know that in neuroscience and in epigenetics, we know that a feeling is what collapses the wave function of health or dis-ease in the body. And so no matter what's going on, 63 in Saturn, 64 in the moon can collapse a new wave function, bring something new into reality.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why it's after completion, because after we finish something, something else begins.
Yeah. Really, really wonderfully shared. And so bring that into this time of the solstice, this part of this turning point in the cycle, part of for us in the northern hemisphere, this again, yin, darkness, in the deep recesses of who we are, and where we're going in this next season. Really beautiful. And when you were speaking to this collapsing the wave function in this emotional context, we also want to share that we have the channel of transitoriness, called a design of a jack of all trades, but it speaks to the possibility of the experiential way. It speaks to the cyclical nature, the peaks and the valleys, that we're moving somewhere, we're going somewhere. And Jupiter is also part of this T-square that's at the solstice, and it's in the gate of progress, and it's in retrograde. So that's why in our last transit report, we've been talking about measured progress with Jupiter in 35. We're still in a larger context, a larger story is evolving right now.
Well, and if we're talking about 35, 36, this is the process of discovering. So just because we've discovered one thing doesn't mean we've discovered everything. And so the progress takes place when we stack our discoveries one upon the other after we experience things. And so I think that's what that's speaking to.
Yeah, very nice. One last thing we'll throw in, and we'll say a few things about the third quarter moon happening on Sunday, a little after 3 p.m. Mountain Time. But Pluto is in a trine to the south node and a sextile to the north node. So Pluto is in a free-flowing conversation with our movement, our trajectory into the future. And we had a lot of talk about Pluto, currently still in gate 60. And this transition, this transmutation of limitation individually, of how we are overcoming fear, doubt, and insecurity and speaking our authentic truth.
And it looks like the key is in 46, bliss of the body. This is a tantric in the body, feeling each cell of the body through the existence of being human. So that's what the invitation or the limitation is.
And 46 also, I really appreciate you sharing that, because I feel 46 as it's a determination of the higher self, is the actual name of it. And it's the determination connected to the abstract emotional process of life, which is being present. And that's a big word, and not always so easy in these times of transition and upheaval in the world right now. But that's the symbolism we're seeing, is to be present.
And one of the simplest, quickest 5-second ways to know that if we're present or not is to allow the energy to be felt in our fingertips. So if we're curious about, well, I think I'm present. Am I present? Do you feel the fingers, your fingers? Do you feel the energy at the tips of your fingers? And if you don't, put your attention there until you do, and that means you're present.
Beautiful. And on the other side of that 46 is the 25, the spirit of the higher self, the innocence without precondition. The fool on the hill.
That when we're present is only accessible then. It's not accessible when we're in the mind of defense, in the mind of self. Only when we are present and can feel the energy in our fingertips do we have access to that universal love. Not only access, but it infuses our knowing.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, maybe a few comments on the third quarter moon. So if we take everything we've talked about with this December solstice and the symbolism that it's happening within around 13 hours of this third quarter moon of this lunar cycle. Now, with all third quarter moons, part of the symbolism is that the moon is returning home to another conjunction with the sun, another private conversation. Third quarter moon is always a time to let things go, to take agency, to nurture the garden of our soul.
And when you say let things go, it means just allow the dead limbs to die. Allow the conversations that aren't going anywhere to just stop. Allow the efforting that you do for other people that doesn't feel like symbiosis. Allow those to fall away. I think that's... and so You pointed out this sun nodal moon.
Yeah, so we talked about the sun squaring the nodes in part of our
Right.
solstice moments, but it's on the next day then this square, this T square between the sun and the nodes, and the moon is connected as well, right? And so, to me, it's just highlighting this symbolism, right? That it is a point of transition. It's a transition of our solar cycle as the solstice. It's a transition that is happening while it's in a T square at the midpoint. Sometimes astrologers call it the bending of the nodes. It brings significance to this idea of transition. And the fact that we have the channel of transitoriness, there's just multiple layers speaking to that we are individuals with that gate 10 higher self-love, but we are learning to exist within the harmony and love and beauty of the extremes of the planet and humanity in that sense.
And the moon's in 46. Again, we just talked about 46, and what you just said is being alive in the body, determined to be spirit embodied during all that you just spoke about.
Yeah. So it makes me think of that word presence again.
Yep.
Being present.
Here now.
And so, yeah.
I think that, and Mercury has now turned.
Yeah, Mercury's moving forward in Sagittarius still.
Right. So this is an opportunity now that you have reflected, you've revisited, you've rewound the tape. Now is the opportunity to, in Gate
9.
Gate 9.
Yeah, focus.
Line 5. To really see the details, to be still. Again, back to presence. Because we get to see all of the details. We get to look at every small little piece of that puzzle so that we can maybe tell the story and see what's next, what's possible.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yay. Perfect as the sun is about to set.
Yeah, it's just about gone, so we'll go ahead and resume our float.
Yes.
Get back before it's freezing again. But thanks for sharing your time with us.
Thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. Oh, please subscribe. Please like.
Yeah.
If you have seen any value, or if you're giggling at us sitting here on the river with crutches
in the middle of winter,
go ahead and like there too. It really helps our channel, and please subscribe for future updates.
Yeah.
We are in the midst of our planets class. It will happen again in the spring, and we do have a course that we're going to tell you about soon that will start end of January. So stay tuned. Thanks so much. Bye bye.